Good evening. My name is Bridgette STUMPF, and I am the Executive Director at Network for Victim Recovery of DC. And welcome to NVRDC's 9th annual benefit. After what has been quite a challenging year, we are honored and grateful that you are spending this evening with us. And before we begin tonight's program, we want to take a moment to address a couple of logistical details. While the program will be streaming live, you have the opportunity to experience the event at your own pace, meaning that you can pause and resume the live stream as needed. If you want to engage with the event in real time, we encourage you to join us on Twitter using the hashtag Steadfast2020. Thank you again for attending tonight's event and for supporting DC survivors. On behalf of myself, the NVRDC staff and board, we hope you enjoy.
Well, good evening, everyone. So excited to see you all, even here virtually, and welcome to NVRDC's 9th annual benefit. What a year it has been, 2020, right? This year has been so full of so many challenges, and we're so thankful that you are all here with us this evening, even through those challenges. Our sponsors have been amazing and have been continuing to support NVRDC and have made tonight possible. And we are thankful to all of you who have joined us here virtually to honor the work of NVRDC and the impact they make right here in our DC community, as well as the broader policy advocacy that they do that impacts really the entire country. So no matter where you are joining us this evening, I'm here in my living room. I know we're virtual, but I have my little blingy, cocktail hour mask that I was so excited to pull out for this evening. But we really thank all of you for your participation this evening and your commitment to supporting survivors in NVRDC's work. Before we jump in to the program for this evening, we do want to offer just a few housekeeping details. I know that this is virtual. You might have a technical glitch here or there, but if you do have any technical difficulties throughout the evening, please contact info@nvrdc.org. info@nvrdc.org. So as we continue on this evening, you can also engage with us on Twitter by using the hashtag Steadfast2020, and we can connect with you all there. Feel free to post questions as well, and we'll try to get those answered throughout the evening. You also may notice that under your program video, there's a button that will direct you to the silent auction. So at any point this evening, you can click on that and kind of take a look at what you can bid on. That will stay open until 8 p.m. tomorrow night. So you do have about 24 hours to check out anything in the auction and bid on that to continue to support the great work that NVRDC is doing in our community. Also, don't forget that at any point this evening, if you are feeling inspired by what you hear, you can give directly to support NVRDC through the Donate Now button that's at the top right of your screen. So check that out. Or you can use your phone and you can donate by texting NVRDC to the number 202-858-1233. So I'll just say that once again, just text NVRDC to the number 202-858-1233. Now, to get this evening started, I'm very excited to introduce NVRDC's board chair, Liam Montgomery. Liam has been supporting NVRDC for more than 5 years now, first as an advocate for his firm's pro bono partnership between Williams and Connolly and NVRDC, then as a board member, and now for the last 2 years, leading the incredible team that makes up NVRDC as the board chair. So we'll send it over to Liam right now.
Thanks, Jummy, and let me just say how lucky we are to have you here. Some of you might have heard that there's a little thing going on called the election, and Jummy has been working literally around the clock covering that for NBC4. So we're always lucky to have you, but especially so this year. And welcome everyone to NVRDC's 9th annual and first virtual event. This time last year, we were all gathered in Sidley's beautiful conference space, sharing a meal, having a cocktail, and all being inspired collectively by NVRDC. And this year, here I am broadcasting from my house in a suit on the top and bedroom slippers and shorts on the bottom. So it's been quite a change. But needless to say, our changing modes of dress are hardly the most important changes we've all gone through over the last year. Without question, this has been the most challenging year NVRDC has ever endured. But equally without question, I'm proud to say it's been NVRDC's most successful year ever too. When the global pandemic hit and the world shut down, NVRDC stepped up. NVRDC advocates have continued to show up for survivors in one of the busiest ERs in the entire city without a hiccup in the middle of a pandemic. We pay them hazard pay to recognize them for that sacrifice. And our lawyers stepped in immediately to be sure that the very much needed compassionate release programs that were being put in place accounted for the needs and rights of survivors. In short, when the world made things much tougher, NVRDC only got better. But as successful as NVRDC has been, it faces substantial risks and uncertainties in the year ahead. That's why we're so lucky to have supporters like all of you. This year has been an incredibly difficult and challenging year for our sponsors and our donors too, and we know that. And yet, like NVRDC's commitment to survivors, our donors have found a way to be steadfast for NVRDC so that we can continue to serve our clients who need us now more than ever. We're so deeply grateful for that. I want to get to our program where you can hear all about this and all about our accomplishments from the people who made it happen. But before I do, I want to reflect on a word that is so simple and yet often so complex for survivors, and that word is story. Survivors sometimes encounter this word in its worst manifestations. People often accuse survivors of telling, quote, stories, as if they're making up or aggrandizing their experiences for personal gain. It's one of the biggest challenges that survivors face, one that creates barriers to reporting and that punishes and alienates survivors when they do have the courage to come forward. But tonight, you're going to hear the very best manifestations of the word story. Stories can bring us together. They can give us courage, and you're going to hear about that. They can connect us and even enlighten and inspire us. I can't wait for you to hear all about how NVRDC supports survivors throughout their journey and their storytelling. So I'll delay no further. As we move into the program, I'm excited to start by sharing a special recognition of our partners at the DC Forensic Nurse Examiners. The work that NVRDC does in partnership with DCFNE is a great example of what it means to stand steadfast for survivors.
Hi, my name is Reese and I'm an advocate at the Network for Victim Recovery of DC. I remember my first day working at the hospital without shadowing under another advocate. I was nervous and I questioned my capability to provide the support that's truly needed at such a traumatic time. Cheryl was the forensic nurse examiner I was partnered with on that day. Now, the number of cases we receive at the hospital varies, but on that day, my first day, we had 4 concurrent cases. That means we were at the hospital for about 10 hours. Luckily, Cheryl's level-headedness, her reassurance, and her expertise allowed us to provide excellent care to the survivors on that day. Ever since then, every experience I've had with the forensic nurses has been one of support and true collaboration. Now, when the pandemic first started, I was worried for the safety and well-being of essential workers, but also for the survivors we serve often and without hesitation. If they were sexually assaulted and had to choose between receiving medical care or lessening their risk of exposure to COVID-19, what would they decide? How would they rationalize their choice, deciding that one was more important than the other? Coming to this decision was and is still a reality for the survivors we serve. But watching the DC forensic nurses respond with such compassion and care is awe-inspiring, especially in a time of uncertainty. Their foremost concern is the well-being of the survivor, and they don't lose sight of that. Now, as an advocate, my job is to provide the emotional support to the survivor, but I feel like the DC forensic nurses provide just as much support as we do. I work with Rod Moore a lot, and his friendliness and the way he formulates a plan of care is very much appreciated by many of our survivors. Katie Moley is probably one of the most sincere people I know. Janessa's efficiency, Iris's professionalism, Allison's thoroughness. These are all qualities I admire in partnership with the DC Forensic Nurse Examiners, and I am so thankful to work with you all and to have your support.
Good evening. My name is ERIN POLLITT, and I'm the Executive Director at DC Forensic Nurse Examiners. As the sole provider of forensic nursing care for adult sexual assault survivors in the district, DCF&E is proud to partner with NVRDC to provide consistent and real-time medical care and advocacy to survivors in their time of need. When I look back on the thousands of individuals that we've helped over the years, I can't help but think of the unwavering commitment both organizations have made to serving survivors. You can't do this work without dedication. This is what it means to be steadfast. Through inclement weather, political and civil unrest, and even global pandemics, we show up for survivors when they need it the most. We are so grateful for NVRDC's support and partnership, and honestly, we couldn't do this work without it. Thank you for showing up tonight to celebrate the incredible work of our partners at NVRDC.
All right, thank you so much for that. For those of you who have joined NVRDC for a prior one of these annual benefits, you're familiar with the survivor artwork that we see every single year that is really centered around this event. The organization really believes deeply that storytelling through creative expression can be an important part of a survivor's healing. And when reimagining how to bring this all to life in this virtual way this year, we decided to do something a little different. And we're so grateful to have international artist Adil Abedi joining us this evening. Adil is creating a one-of-a-kind piece of art for the auction tonight. So Adil, if you can kind of talk to us how you think that art can be a part of the healing process.
Hi, Jimmy. Thanks for having me. And this is all interesting circumstances. I'm getting used to myself painting through a webcam. So no, I mean, I think for me, art is, I think, one of the most universal, things out there. I think it's non-confrontational, it's non-political. It's something which everybody can find an element of beauty in art. So I feel very blessed that through my work, if I can bring a bit of joy, compassion, beauty to people's homes, I think that in itself acts as a part of a healing process.
Yeah. Well, why did you feel it was so important for you to support NVRDC in this really powerful and interesting and creative way?
So apart from being good friends with Tracy and Liam, I'm very, I love taking part in organizations that are doing great work, and especially with NVRDC. I think of late as well, it's hit a bit more personally with me. I think a member of my family has been going through a bit of a hard time back in the UK, and if anything, I think it's the right time for me to kind of just be involved with this organization. And if I can, through my own medium, i.e. through the artwork, raise funds to help other victims of all crimes gain access to legal and advocacy work, I'd love to take part in that. So.
Okay, well, I won't keep you too long because I know you've got to get to work there
Yeah.
behind us. Adil, thank you. And if you have any questions for Adil, feel free to post those or comments using the hashtag on Twitter, Steadfast2020, and we'll check back in with him a little bit later on in our program for more on that. Adil, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Some of you may have seen this, but maybe if not, we'll just kind of bring you up to speed, if you will. Last month, the Washington Post released its first ever investigative podcast called Canary, The Washington Post Investigates. This podcast follows the story of two women who were sexually assaulted years apart, but connected by their will to share their truth. Well, NVRDC was honored to be able to support one of those survivors named Lauren, who you will meet in episode 1 of the podcast. And she was so generous to sit down and talk with us tonight about more on how NVRDC supported her in her journey. And she explains it all to Canary. Take a look. All righty. So yeah, Lauren, welcome to our virtual kind of event that we have here going on. This is the way we've been going here with 2020, but there are probably people who are watching here this evening who have heard about your story through the Canary podcast. But for those who haven't, or if this is their first time being introduced to you and your story, could you just briefly tell us a little bit about what you talked about during that podcast and your experience?
So In Canary, in episode 1, Amy is the reporter who investigated my case. She lays out what happened for me in the aftermath of a sexual assault. And this is after she'd already done an investigation that was published in January of 2019. So it's kind of following up and like rehashing some of the stuff that's in that investigation. And basically we go over the night of the assault. I was out running in Glover Park and I was assaulted by a stranger. He was arrested that night. He ended up pleading guilty. He had assaulted another woman that night. And then in court, it's revealed that he admitted to assaulting 4 other women. So she goes over some of those things, but then the case ends up coming back into my life multiple times. And I ended up having to go to civil court to get a protective order against him because he kept taking jobs very close to where I lived and where I worked, and kept violating boundaries after that civil order was I guess obtained in court with the help of NVRDC. And then found out that he not only was working in very close proximity to my house and where I worked, there had been a hearing in his case that I wasn't made aware of, and that's a violation of my rights. And I should have had an opportunity to speak there, and had I been given that opportunity, I would have done it. So I called KRISTIN at NVRDC, and at this point, she and I already had like a relationship because she had helped me so many times before throughout this process. And we filed a motion to appeal that hearing because the judge took him off of supervised probation.
A minute ago, you brought up NVRDC, and that's obviously the organization that brought us all together today. But can you talk to us a little bit about how they played a role in your experience?
Yeah, I mean, they played a huge role. I don't think I would have been able to do any of this without them. Going into court, I'm not a lawyer, like I'm a hairdresser. And without NVRDC throughout the first kind of the legal proceedings in the beginning, I feel like I was in it, I was kind of blind and didn't really have like knowledgeable support or resources that were so important. And I realized the effect and the impact that they had when I did have them. KRISTIN, my advocate, my attorney, in court with me, there when we filed the papers, there when I stood in front of the judge, and next to the man who assaulted me, was really powerful and helpful.
If you had the chance to sit down with another survivor who is not currently working with NVRDC, what would you say to that survivor, and what would you want them to know about NVRDC?
I feel a little sad, like when you ask me that question, because I have that opportunity often. People share their stories with me, and NVRDC played such an important role, and I can't imagine what this would have been like without them. And the first thing I say is, if they're in DC, I give them, NVRDC's website. If they aren't, I'll start helping research and find an organization for them, or reach out to Bridget and ask if she knows any in that area, having that support is so important, and figuring out how you want to move forward and how you want to handle your case based on, you know, your specific situation, and how you feel and what you want to do. It's just so important, giving you this, finding people who will help you recover agency and recover control after it's been taken away from you, and power after it's been taken away from you. It's really hard to do that on your own. These are happy tears that are going on. You know, when people thank me, or tell me I'm strong, you know, for sharing my story, I immediately feel gratitude, because I know how important it was to have NVRDC and everything that they did for me and gave me, you know, it was just so important, and I feel so grateful for it. So whenever anyone, you know, like expresses gratitude to me for what I've done, for sharing my story, I feel gratitude for NVRDC.
Lauren, thank you so much for just sharing a few minutes of your story with us. I know that it's a long one and a passionate one, and the work you continue to do. And so we really appreciate you sharing with us this evening. We're so grateful for the ways that you have fought to advocate for your safety, rights, and for the community of survivors within our greater Washington area. Now I am pleased to welcome Bridgette back to the stage, if you will. Bridgette co-founded NVRDC in 2012, and she works tirelessly as the executive director, and we're so grateful for her leadership. So Bridgette, I'll kick it off to you.
Well, welcome everyone, and thank you, JUMMY, for your ongoing support of NVRDC's work. And thank you to NVRDC's incredible board of directors, Liam, Chris, Karen, Mark, Miranda, Stefana, Blair, Jane, Monica, Julia, Kelsey, Carrie, and Alicia. And of course, to our staff, thank you for your steadfast commitment to survivor-defined justice. Even as we navigate COVID-19 and experience a racial reckoning caused by our country's long history of racism, during this 8th year as an organization, NVRDC has weathered maintaining an in-person advocacy response during a global pandemic, a 60% increase in requests for services through our office intakes, and enforcing survivors' rights while courts halted and also grappled with emergency release procedures simultaneously. Your dedication to showing up each and every day in this work, even when it feels harder than ever, is unmatched. In addition to Naida, Jessica, and Game Genius behind the scenes, I also have to give a special shout out to Tracy, who made this event possible through leading our event planning committee. Thank you for your countless hours and creativity to supporting NVRDC's mission. Special thanks to Council Member Charles Allen and his staff for joining us tonight. We're so grateful for your unwavering support of survivors. And to all our guests, and thanks to the, I think about 100 people based on the feed that's coming in and out, just so grateful for all of you that are joining us tonight. I really want to express my deep appreciation for the now over $100,000. I have the feed over here, and I'm just seeing so many generous donations come in from the Giles family, Miss Jackson, Kate Lee, ERIN, Stefana, Nathaniel, and Colleen, CJ, Kelsey, Amy, and even more names. We are so grateful for the donations we've already received, and especially to our sponsors, Williams and Conley, Arnold and Porter, Latham and Watkins, and the other more than 20 sponsors. If you haven't yet, please check out the sponsorship slideshow button for the full list. And we're again just so incredibly thankful for that support. But most importantly, we're grateful for the survivors that are joining us tonight and for allowing NVRDC to stand steadfast with you. As you saw in the video with Reese and ERIN, we rely on partnerships with DCF&E and MedStar Washington Hospital Center. We cannot do this work on our own. And so with that, it is my honor to recognize a few of our partners who are awardees tonight, including Karma Kottman at the DC Coalition Against Domestic Violence and the firm Zwiljan.
Good evening. I'm KRISTIN, ELIASON, the Director of Legal and Strategic Advocacy at NVRDC, and it is my distinct pleasure to introduce to you this year's recipient of NVRDC's annual LW Advocacy Award, Ms. Karma Kottman. NVRDC selected Karma due to her unwavering advocacy, both locally and nationally, around the issues of domestic, sexual, and community violence. For more than 20 years, Karma has worked nationally and locally to raise awareness, increase resources, and provide training and education around the issues of domestic, sexual, and community violence. As the Executive Director of the DC Coalition Against Domestic Violence, Karma's leadership has resulted in a tripling of funding for community service providers and district agencies, increasing programs and support for domestic violence survivors in the district. Her leadership has resulted not only in increased funding, but increased support, resources, and programs for the survivors of domestic, sexual, and community violence in our community, and has filled gaps and brought important issues to the table that others have simply overlooked. In response to the need for greater advocacy, resources, services, support, and policy around the needs of Black women survivors of sexual assault, domestic violence, and community violence, in 2014, under Karma's leadership, UJIMA, the National Center on Violence Against Women in the Black Community, was launched as a national culturally specific resource center with a goal to mobilize the community to respond to and end domestic, sexual, and community violence in the Black community. The coalition under Karma's leadership has helped the community of service providers who work to fight domestic, sexual, and community violence in innumerable and immeasurable ways. As evidenced by the coalition's role in the domestic violence housing continuum, their creation of the DC Coalition for Girls, and their amazing Domestic Violence Core Competency Training Program, or DVACT, it's clear that the coalition is a vital part and leader in our community and in the fight to end domestic, sexual, and community violence. The coalition's policy advocacy under Karma's leadership is truly an inspiration, without which survivors of domestic and sexual violence would lack many of the legal protections they currently have in the district. For instance, the coalition brought together a variety of domestic violence attorneys and advocates to work on amending the statute that governs civil protection orders in the district. This was no small feat and took many years. Without the coalition's leadership, I honestly doubt whether our group would have finished drafting the legislation, let alone see it through to its, hopefully, passing. Every October, the coalition brings together service providers and community members for Domestic Violence Awareness Month. The programs, resources, and truly awesome swag that the coalition offers serves to increase awareness and access to resources in our community. The coalition works to help service providers and community members understand that in order to succeed in the fight against domestic violence, sexual violence, and community violence, we have to understand its intersections with racial, social, and economic injustices in our community and our country. The intersection of these injustices and violence in our community is too often left out of the conversations in the movements to end domestic and sexual violence. We are grateful to the coalition for its work in holding space to discuss these intersections and in creating education and training programs around the issues of racial, economic, and gender oppression in our work. Such leadership and perseverance is truly why NVRDC wanted to be a member of the coalition for many years. Under Karma's leadership, the coalition is truly a lighthouse in the storms of sexual, domestic, and community violence. NVRDC is grateful and proud to be a member of such a wonderful coalition led by such an amazing person. Thank you, Karma, for being a steadfast leader, and congratulations on receiving this year's LW Advocacy Award.
Good evening. My name is Dawn Dalton. I'm the Deputy Director for the DC Coalition Against Domestic Violence. And tonight we want to congratulate you, Karma, for receiving this recognition from NVRDC. You are not only a local leader, but a national leader in the domestic violence movement. Oftentimes people will say that you see things from a 30,000 strategic foot level, and I often say that it's at 100,000 feet. We are so lucky to have you as our executive director. Your commitment to survivor choice, equity, and doing this work through a racial and social justice lens has made all the difference to the survivors in the district. So congratulations, Karma, and thank you, NVRDC.
Hi, I'm Greta Gardner from Ujima Incorporated, the National Center on Violence Against Women in the Black community. Karma, I'm so happy that you're being recognized. You have a humanity to the work that is unparalleled. It's an honor to work with you. It is an honor to call you my colleague, my friend. You deserve this like no other. I am so happy that the local, state, and national arena has you to bring voices to survivors who can't speak and to take care of staff who are advocating every day. We love you. Congratulations from Ujima.
Good evening. I am honored to have been awarded the 2020 Network for Victim Recovery of DC LW Advocacy Award. Over the past 10 years, it has been my privilege to serve as Executive Director of the DC Coalition Against Domestic Violence. And as I move on to lead Ujima, I am grateful for all that DC, my birthplace and home, has taught me, and continuously humbled by the tenacity of the advocates and survivors that we represent. 2020 has been an incredible year. It has reminded us that while we have worked diligently to raise awareness about the impact of domestic violence in our city, about the importance of funding domestic violence programs, and ensuring that systems are responsive to the needs of survivors, there is still much to be done. The COVID-19 pandemic has underscored what we as advocates have long known, that for many of our family, friends, and neighbors, safety is fleeting. This year's events have also reminded us that working towards racial justice is central to responding to and ending domestic violence in our city, because without it, the justice that we seek for the survivors that we serve does not exist. 2020 has also served as a reminder that our advocacy is not about a them, it is about all of us. It is with that reminder that I humbly accept this award. Thank you to the NVRDC staff and board for your continued commitment to survivors in our city. I look forward to continuing to work in partnership with you towards a city in which domestic violence no longer exists. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Matthew Ornstein, and I'm the Director of Litigation and Enforcement at NVRDC. I'm proud to introduce Wiljan as the recipient of NVRDC's Lydia Watts Firm Voice Award. The heart of our litigation team's work has always been providing free legal representation to survivors of crime here in the district. And in recent years, litigation around a survivor's privacy has been a priority issue for us, and the stakes are always higher when we represent child survivors. So I want to use this opportunity here to offer my genuine, heartfelt gratitude to Jason Wool and everyone at Zwiljan for helping us out in just such a case. Mark, Jason, and Zwiljan donated an incredible amount of their own time and their considerable expertise in privacy litigation to help one of our very young clients resist multiple subpoena attempts into personal and private records. One subpoena in particular involved the technological component that NVRDC's litigation team could just never have successfully navigated on our own. And not only did Zwiljan assist directly in the motion drafting and the court hearings and the strategizing, but they were also to help us arrange for the pro bono services of a cyber forensic expert to help fortify our position. So, to Mark, Jason, and everyone at Zwiljan, we would never have been able to mount such a formidable resistance as we did without your help, and it made a real tremendous difference to our very young client, especially as we worked our way through the issues, as we prepared for trial, and as we moved along. So to all of you, thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Mark Zwillinger, founder of Zwiljan, and on behalf of the entire firm, I wanted to thank you very much for this award. But I also have to tell you, while it's very much appreciated, it's definitely not needed, because in this case, the work itself really has been the true reward. For several years, we looked for pro bono opportunities in the privacy space, and all we found was the opportunity to help organizations, ones we believed in, with their privacy policy and data collection efforts. But then we learned about NVRDC's work, and this gave us the real opportunity to put our privacy skills to work for people who need it. And as everyone who's watching this knows, you shouldn't have to give up your privacy just to report a crime, especially not if you were the victim of that crime. And while the defense and prosecution have things to say about that, they have opposing interests, and neither of them are looking out for the victim's privacy. So by working with NVRDC, we have had the opportunity, both individually and programmatically, to really make a difference in this area, and that feels good. And so what this award really means to us is that you think that our efforts have helped make a difference. So that's the reward that we get from this work. So thank you. And because we at Zwiljan don't believe in taking credit for the work that other people are doing, I'd like to use the rest of the video, not to talk about our firm, but to introduce you to the people at our firm who've really done the bulk of the work with NVRDC. That's Jason Wool and KELSEY HARCLERODE. And thanks again.
Last year, we worked with NVRDC to represent a young girl who was the complainant in a sexual assault case against an older man. The defendant had moved to acquire the young girl's smartphone from the time of the alleged crime, her former phone, and the scope of the request was essentially unrestricted. We found it to be incredibly problematic for a number of reasons, and we knew that we just needed to fight to protect this girl's rights. It gave me a pretty rare opportunity, I would say, to apply my core skill set and specialized background to help a pro bono client, which is rare. I'm an information security lawyer by day, so I work with forensics firms regularly in connection with internal investigations of data breaches and insider activity and things like that. We were able to work with one of our favorite forensics firms to investigate the phone and try to find out what was on there and how we could reduce the scope of the request. And then we used our learnings to successfully push back against the defendant's request. This was overall a really special case for us. Crime victims are not traditionally a party in criminal cases, so they don't always have an advocate who can fight for them, or they didn't usually traditionally, who can fight against the tactics that are used in those cases, and which can be, not only incredibly invasive, but also essentially traumatizing for victims. Being able to be that advocate was an incredibly meaningful opportunity for me. And especially because we were able to use our specialized background as a firm in cybersecurity and privacy to fight for this young girl. So I thank NVRDC for the opportunity to take on cases like that.
Hi, I'm KELSEY HARCLERODE. I'm an attorney at Zwiljan. And on behalf of all of my colleagues, I want to thank NVRDC for this tremendous honor, both the honor of this recognition, as well as the honor of our continued partnership. I actually started out as a victim advocate for survivors of domestic violence. And then I became interested in internet and privacy law after observing the ways in which technology and the internet can harm victims and survivors, and the lack of protection for folks in some of their most vulnerable moments. And so to be able to work with NVRDC to help, to advocate for, and to represent victims and survivors of crime, especially the work that we do with survivors of sexual violence, it's really such a tremendous opportunity that I am so grateful to be a part of. So thank you all again. I hope we can all be together soon. Have an excellent evening. Good night.
Congratulations to the award recipients for all the great work that you do, and we thank you for that. Right now, I want to check in with our new friend Adil, see how he's doing with his painting. I know he's been hard at work these past couple of minutes to create something great that we can all kind of bid on. There you are. Oh, so it's not just a, kind of tell us what you're doing right here. It's not just a blue background anymore.
Yeah. So I did the hard work actually beforehand. So I kind of prepped the canvas before, because the time that we have is very little. So it's a very layered, textured background with blues, corals, turquoise. And my specialty is showcasing the beauty of the Arabic script. So I thought, in line with the theme of Steadfast, I picked the Arabic word for steadfast, which is samad. So that's basically written here in my kind of signature style composition. And then I basically just doing some line work right now and just to kind of add the finishing touches. I know I'm a bit short on time, so I need to kind of just crack on. But yeah, this is what I've been able to do so far. So.
Any reason why you picked those specific colors?
Well, I think the colors also are part of NVRDC's kind of, I think their background, I'm not exactly sure, but I think for me, it's very much anything to kind of showcase the beauty of the script and contrasting colors, deep, rich colors. And I think, because this is going to be going for auction and donation, I wanted to make something a little bit more dramatic so people can know that the money that they donated, they're going to get a beautiful piece of art in return. So. And
it is beautiful. I know you want to finish up, so we'll let you continue on with your hard work. Adil, thank you. Well, now I have the honor of announcing NVRDC's Champion Award winner and our keynote speaker, Congresswoman Jackie Speier.
Hi, my name is Bridgette Stumpf, and I have the honor of leading NVRDC in partnership with our board and staff. And I'm so excited to share that Representative Jackie Speier was selected by NVRDC's team to receive our 2020 Champion Award. This award recognizes those who demonstrate a commitment to uplifting the rights of survivors and serving as a champion to ensure protections and resources are available to respond to the vast needs that survivors have. And I'm personally so grateful for the Congresswoman's efforts to fight for women's safety and freedom from violence, particularly right now when threats to gender equity are so present. As the representative of California's 14th District, her work advocating to advance the rights of survivors in the military justice system and on college campuses directly impacts how NVRDC does our work here for DC survivors. As we have supported nearly 600 campus survivors, representing over 200 in Title IX matters, we are uniquely situated to understand the needs of these survivors and appreciate her efforts towards protecting their rights. In October of 2017, Congresswoman Speier shared her own experience of misconduct when she was a congressional aide. Her legislation, the Me Too Congress Act, became the basis of the bipartisan Congressional Accountability Reform Act that was signed into law in December of 2018. We have had the opportunity to work with the Congresswoman's staff this year as we strive to strengthen the meaningfulness of the Crime Victims' Rights Act, a unique federal law that applies to our local crime prosecutions here in the district, impacting more than 300 individual victims that we represent each year. As an advocate for advancing the rights of survivors and a survivor herself of gun violence, we feel deeply connected to her fearless commitment to supporting those impacted by acts of violence in all forms. This is precisely why we support survivors of all types of harm as they try to navigate the complex systems after victimization. We're so privileged to have Representative Speier joining us tonight. Please join me in congratulating her for this honor. Thank you so much.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jackie Speier, and I'm honored and elated to be the recipient of the 2020 Champion Award from the Network for Victim Recovery of DC. This distinct privilege is all the more meaningful because of the exceptional work you do on behalf of survivors each and every day. From legal services to case management and advocacy, you empower survivors with the tools and resources they need to achieve justice, dignity, and respect for themselves. I'm pre-recording this video message, but hopeful as you hear my words on November 5th that we have reason to be optimistic about our future and the progress we can make on behalf of survivors' rights. It's because of organizations like NVRDC that we've been able to survive these past 4 years. You are doing the community-driven work on the ground in the face of incredible odds to ensure survivors have a voice and an ally in their fight for justice. I want to commend you for supporting nearly 5,000 survivors of crime since 2012. I also want to commend you for supporting student survivors in Title IX matters. Nearly 1 in 4 women are sexually assaulted on college campuses, and a third of these student survivors drop out of school completely. The emotional, physical, and economic toll of campus sexual assault is immeasurable, but it's organizations like NVRDC that work with survivors hand in hand to make sure they understand their rights and the process moving forward. The administration's Title IX rule may be in effect today, but you can mark my words that it will be among my top priorities in Congress to right this terrible wrong. and upholds survivors' civil rights. I also want to thank you for your support and partnership on my bipartisan Courtney Wild Crime Victims' Right Reform Act. I introduced this legislation to strengthen the CVRA and clean up any legal ambiguity surrounding the rights afforded to crime victims such as Courtney Wild, who was just 14 years of age with her teeth still in braces when she was first sexually assaulted by serial sexual predator Jeffrey Epstein. The government failed Epstein's victims, and we must make certain this travesty never happens again. With the Me Too movement, survivors show the world what bravery looks like. We must be brave with them, whether it's taking on workplace harassment, fighting against military sexual assault, or ensuring safe schools. There is so much work to be done, and I'm grateful to have NVRDC as a partner in this fight. Let's show survivors we have their backs. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Spear, for your fearless work supporting survivors. For those of us joining tonight, we hope you are clearly seeing the ways in which, like the awardees tonight, NVRDC is constantly centering survivors' experiences, using innovation to push for more meaningful and healing responses to violence, and standing steadfast in their commitment of survivor-defined justice. Now let's hear from one of NVRDC's former clients, Caesar, about what this commitment has meant for him.
Steadfast support and empowerment means ensuring that we are always there for a survivor.
The roots of a just society are ones where everybody has the opportunity to define and to walk their path of justice.
We have the power to talk to the police and to fight for our rights and not just like giving up.
You have the honor of being in these moments where people's normal defenses are broken.
It is important that NVRDC does the work that it does in order to ensure that survivors are not falling through the gaps.
NVRDC really helps the cycles of community violence get broken by offering people a way of amplifying their own voices and, in a way, really offering autonomy for the first time.
Cesar was referred to us in 2019.
I just saw like two people approaching to me, but once we got closer, one of them just pushed me.
And as a result of that crime, he had sustained very severe physical injuries, and he had incurred very large medical bills.
The report from police, that wasn't in my favor. And it wasn't that clear neither.
The way that the police report had been written, it essentially said that no crime had occurred.
I couldn't speak English very well. Plus, my mouth was swollen and without teeth. It just felt like a loser, not being able to communicate, not being able to say the right words.
Once an NVRDC attorney and myself were able to connect back to MPD and meet with them, we were able to explain to them and advocate for Cesar, and he was able to get all of his medical bills covered.
Without their help, my life would be totally different right now, being just worry about money. Whenever somebody get hit or get punched, it's not just the physical part of our body that it gets involved into these actions, but also our inner part, our personality kind of changes a lot.
In the past 2 years, NVRDC has worked to strengthen the relationship with MedStar and provide trainings to their trauma staff.
NVRDC really helps us and the Community Violence Intervention Program to meet somebody where they are.
Having different connections within the community with all different types of organizations, whether that is different law firms, whether those are counseling services, it gives us the opportunity to connect survivors with services that we may not provide in-house.
NVRDC is absolutely there for us in the most challenging of times.
We want to make sure that we're always taking into account how survivors identify, what different cultural aspects are important to them.
And it's been very important to me to have partners like NVRDC that say, no, every single one of these people deserve to have the entirety of their human experience recognized, their rights protected, for them to have voices in these systems that have not listened to them before.
The work with CISR highlights the very urgent need to continue to train different actors, different agencies on trauma-informed care.
NVRDC really is working to shift the culture towards one of redefining victim, strengthening our commitment to protecting the most vulnerable, to protecting all victims in DC.
They were really supportive and saying, hey, Cesar, we're going to be there with you.
As an advocate, I have the unique opportunity to relieve some of that burden that survivors may encounter from the system and allow them to focus on their healing.
Those small moments of really trying to give somebody full autonomy, of allowing them to make their own decisions, of offering them options that they haven't had before is extraordinarily powerful, and it can be transformational.
I feel now that I have like a second chance doing all the best that I can for other people and for myself too.
Now we would like to give each of you an opportunity to support NVRDC's critical programs and services for our community. If you haven't donated yet tonight, don't worry, you're about to get your chance. This is the time that you finally get to click that orange donate button at the top of the screen. Remember, you can also use your phone and donate that way as well by texting NVRDC to the number 202-858-1233. And if you're feeling inspired, we are going to begin the bidding to support NVRDC's work at $5,000. Bridget is here to help us lead us through that part of the program.
Yeah, and I'm just so happy to say we've had so many generous donations coming in just over the last hour. Thank you to Teresa, Jason, Stephanie, Ted, Trisha, Angie, Amy, so many of you. It actually cost us $371 for each client we serve, and we served 600 people in last year alone. And so if you click that donate button at the top right part of your screen, you're going to see lots of different dollar handles, and $5,000 would contribute to supporting the cost to serve 13 different clients. But remember that you can help cover the cost of our services and our systemic advocacy and our community impact by donating on our website at any time at nvrdc.org/donate. And if supporting survivors is a cause that's close to your heart, share that opportunity with others in your life. And of course, thank you for your contributions tonight.
Bridget, I'd like to start by committing that Tracy and I want to donate $5,000. We want to really put our money where our mouth is and show NVRDC how much it means to us and how amazing we think all the staff and you are.
Well, thank you so much, Liam. You already give so much, so that's just an added extra on top of Tracy. You both are just such an incredible, unsung hero behind the scenes, and we're incredibly grateful for that. And I'm seeing donations come in on my other screen, trying to keep up. And I know, Liam, there were others too that you might want to acknowledge that had come in even before we started tonight.
Yeah, so I wanted to thank Bob Barnett, my partner, and several of my other partners who've given really generously to NVRDC. Let me just say, as people are considering what they'd like to donate, for those of you who don't know, and you heard on our impact video just now, we often have to get translation services for survivors so that we can interact with them and they can interact with the court systems. And a contribution of $2,500 allows NVRDC to fund 15 hours of interpretation services. So if you can donate $2,500 today, you'll support 20 survivors having a meaningful access to participate in their in finding survivor-defined justice. So I really appreciate if everybody would be able, anybody would be able to do that.
Yeah, and as I see some donations coming in, we're going to go ahead and shift into wrapping up tonight. And it's just been so wonderful being able to be in community with everyone and seeing all of these wonderful messages coming in with donations. As we close out your opportunity to donate through the donate button on the top right part of your screen, I just want to flag that even a small $50 donation can support the cost for 5 different survivors who have to provide their clothing as evidence when accessing a forensic exam, to have clean clothing when they leave that process. So every little amount counts and adds up and is really impactful in how we do this work. So thank you to everyone for whatever you've been able to give tonight. And with that, I think we're going to go ahead and jump ahead. And there's JUMMY.
Yes, I am back. Thank you so much. And we want to just thank everyone who's already donated and made such generous contributions tonight to support survivor-defined justice. And if you have not, of course, there's still time. Of course, you can text donate and we'll keep that open for 48 hours. Don't forget, just text NVRDC to 202-858-1233. Okay, so we want to go back to Otto real quick, one final time, so we can see the artwork that he's created, and hopefully it'll be on someone's wall here soon. I know the donations are going to come in for that. Let's take a look.
I'm gonna have to do some touch-ups later myself, but for now, I'll bring it a little bit closer so people can see some of the texture and the colors and the sheen of the gold. So like I said, this is my interpretation of the word steadfast in the Arabic script. I believe it transcends faith, culture, religions, and my goal is to make the script more universal and engage with audiences from all over the world. So I hope whoever gets this can enjoy it and it becomes a conversation piece in their house. So
it is beautiful, Otto. Thank you so much. And that piece of artwork will be available in the silent auction. So definitely head there, donate so that that can be hanging on your wall here in the future. Bridget, we'll send it back over to you real quick one last time.
Yeah, that is so beautiful. And for those watching that were able to just check that out, Otto, I'm so grateful for your time and your energy into creating such a wonderful thematic piece to represent what we do here. For those watching, you have until 8 p.m. tomorrow to bid on that painting. And so that gives you some extra time. All the items will be sent to you virtually or by mail. And if you're the lucky winner, you'll be hearing from one of us at NVRDC. Of course, thanks so much to all of you who have joined tonight, contributed, who have championed for survivors and our work. And I want to invite Liam to give us some final remarks.
Yeah, sorry, slight technical difficulty. Well, just thank you everyone for your support to NVRDC. I hope you've enjoyed our first annual virtual event. I hope it's our last virtual event so that we can see you all in person next year. And we're looking forward to that. And in the meantime, NVRDC will be out there on the front lines helping survivors because of your steadfast support, and we really do appreciate it. So thank you very much, everybody.
Good night, everyone.